Oh, we are live again. They're still letting us do this. Do you want to hear why I'm so excited today, Randy?
Tell me, why are you so excited?
I am so excited because you are trying to no, you're not trying. You are going to talk about AI today. And that conversation topic is never brought up. It's so unique.
Never
It's so
ever.
original. But you know what? When I saw the topic this morning, I thought to myself, in digital media, I feel like I've heard it all to this point. And, maybe Randy will bring up something brand new. And then we started this call, and I realized I don't know anything. The moment I think I know something in life, it's sit down, be humble. You don't know anything because Randy, who normally comes into this call with glasses, he has a regular haircut and a beard. Today, there's no glasses, a fedora, and no beard. And when he jumped on, I was like, he's getting ready to travel to Florida. This is Pittsburgh Randy. It's a different look. The moment you think you know what's up, you don't know a thing.
Listen, you have to keep everyone guessing. Like, you gotta keep everybody on their toes,
I'm on my toes.
so that they have no idea what's going on, but they have to pay attention. And paying attention is actually the opposite of it. Is why I currently come to us beard free today. Earlier this week, I was trimming my beard and my hand slipped, and that just led to me being like, okay, I guess it's all got to go. So I went from wild man beard down to just a clean face. And now I'm just, I've got the shadow going. It's nice. It feels like sandpaper. And hopefully by next week, I'll have something that sort of looks like a beard for the next video. But I didn't want to cancel today. I didn't want to be like, oh, I can't do this because I don't have a beard. I'm sorry.
You just leave me talking to the audience by myself, and no one wants to hear me monologue. I don't know where it'll end up. You don't know. I don't know. No one should know. No one should see that.
I mean, I tell people I have a face for radio anyway, so that's fine. Just listen to this as a podcast. Don't watch the video. Don't look at my weird holiday hat fedora thing.
Meanwhile, I intentionally wear a green hat, a green shirt. I got green lights behind me. I am just bought into the 4K way. Every time I do any Design Good Company episode, I'm just like on brand. Meanwhile, every time we do this podcast, you wear maroon.
Well, I want to, the thing is like everything around us in the video.
Palette, though. We kind of these two colors complement each other.
Yes. Everything that's because everything in the video feed, if you're watching this in video, you can see is green. And it's like, I want to stand out a little bit. And so I wear maroon. So
yeah, you want to be, you are the appeal. I'm just here to blend in. I'm like a floating head with all this green backdrop stuff. And I'm wearing a hat, so it's really just my eyes, nose, and mouth that you can.
We can make your video smaller. We can just make it a little tiny little cube in the bottom corner.
Me a little. Look at that. Yeah.
There we go.
All perfect. Randy now. If you're not watching the video, well, you're not missing much. We're just fooling around here. Yeah. You know who's not fooling around? OpenAI and people who do AI things these days and where all the. And by the way, just gotta say before we even get started, hot take here. Let's stop calling stuff AI. It's not AI. Most of it's not artificial intelligence. I bought a camera today, and it's like the AI follows you. So the camera just knows where to go. I'm like, is that actually artificial intelligence? No. It's not.
No,
Let's stop
machine learning.
That.
It's here's the thing. AI is a shortcut. It's a marketing term. It's a way to focus. It's a way to be like, what we're going to do for you is magic. And it's
magic.
Yeah. Before we get, you know what? So here's the deal. Before we get into AI, I want to really up front. I've got a complaint to get out. So one of my big things with machine learning and LLMs and just AI in general is I take a human-centered approach to it. Okay. Like my big thing is I believe in people first, not machines first. Like I think that like any technology that we build should be a multiplier for the work that we do. It should make what we do easier. It should not be a replacement for people.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so angry yesterday. At least I think it was yesterday. So every morning I have like a feed of like news that I read. I have a bunch of different places where I get news, and I saw an article by a company called Lattice. Okay. So Lattice is it's a human resources company.
Mm.
Like we actually use them at Four Kitchens to like conduct our one-on-ones, our quarterly conversations, like do like annual reviews. We use it as software to manage people, and it's really nice. It's really smooth. Until this week, I would recommend it to anyone. But they had a big announcement, and they said that today Lattice is making AI history. We will be the first to give digital workers official employee records in Lattice. Digital workers will be securely onboarded, trained, and assigned goals, performance metrics, appropriate system access, and even a manager, just as any person would be. They are treating AI as like AI bots as if they are people. They're calling them digital workers. They're not digital workers. It's a computer. Like, listen,
Oh,
I listen, I love email, but I'm not going to give email a title and invite it to like the retreat.
it just this feels like a cult. Like that's how when we say things like that, it's like no, that just tells me that sooner or later there's going to be Kool-Aid presented, and I shouldn't even start, right? Like I saw a post this week that, and yeah, it was a post that said we need to treat AI like it's a part of our team. And I was like, oh, I was really expecting that end of the sentence to say a part of our standard processes, or something
Yeah.
involving operations, process improvement, whatever. To say part of our team, I was just like, whoa, all right, you hooked me because it was exactly that. I'm like, I wasn't expecting to see that. Now, I know today you texted me beforehand. You said, let's talk about should you use AI as part of your content strategy.
Yeah.
So, up front, when I started a business, so like before we even went all in, like months beforehand, I was like, oh, I need a content calendar. Now, ChatGPT was still really novel and new. And so I leveraged it
Mhm.
and I used it to say, okay, like let's come up with this content calendar. And it did. And then I was like, okay, now take all of these different points and write blogs. And within a short time, it did. I'm like, great. Now write webinar invites and a landing page and autoresponders and workflows. And within an hour, it had hundreds of pages. And, even though there was a lot of adjectives, I was like, oh, wow, this makes it really easy to copy edit. And at the time, I was like, I mean, my mind was blown. Spent an hour and I had just literally a year's worth of materials for resources and all the emails you could think of that some sounded personalized with different, we all know how you can
Mhm.
change the tone of these AIs now. But I have pivoted so much within the last even 6 months to say if you have something that you need AI to create the core of. Like, there's a difference between saying, I want to create this video asset that's vertical for a YouTube short, and I want AI to bake in the captions. All right, that's one thing. You've made what I was already going to do much easier,
Mhm.
less time consuming. That's one thing. It's another thing to say, come up with my content strategy and write all these materials. If it's having to do that and it's curbing that creativity, it's also really importantly, and for at least my opinion, is now you're not having to do any research. So it makes me think of Jeff Goldblum from Jurassic Park. I know I've mentioned it on this podcast before, but it's like you didn't know what you have or you had. You found it, you patented it, you packaged it, and now you're selling it. You're selling it. You're selling it. And you were so concerned to think whether or not you could, you didn't stop to think whether or not you should. And to that point, I'm seeing a lot of content creators who are all their content seems the exact same now,
Mhm.
time and time again. I spot AI a mile away. And oh, all you YouTubers who are using AI headshots, stop. take a selfie in your kitchen. I don't care, but be you, be real. Let's not use like
Yeah.
it's all overkill. It's all fake. And just like Monet and Van Gogh and impressionistic pieces hit because we just wanted to dive into what was real, I think we're going to see a lot of change coming to content creation and content strategy within the next 5 years because people are going to start to realize, I mean, whoa, we all schmucks. We sound just like this person in a different industry entirely, and all of our stuff sounds the exact same. Okay, I'm sorry, I ranted way too long, but all I saw
No.
was your title, and it just
Well,
it
here's
set.
the thing. That is a very common experience for people. Like I need a bunch of content. I need a bunch of ideas for content. I need a bunch of content. Like I can just use AI to produce this, and it produces something that is reasonably fine and usable, and you're able to move forward with it. And the so for me, one of my big questions is the thing that I'm doing better than what I have right now? Okay. Like it's a very common question that I ask clients whenever it's like getting close to launch time, when they're like, "Oh, well, we don't have this feature." And it's okay. Listen,
Mm,
like, that feature like wasn't even on your current website.
yeah.
That feature is 2 weeks behind. You have an event coming up. We need to launch this site. Let's go ahead and launch the site because it's better than what you have now. And in 2 weeks, you'll have something even better. And
Mm,
so, like, it's
mm-hmm.
a case of like, is that content that you're creating better than what you have now? Like, which in your case, you had nothing. And so, like, it really helped you to create like strong fundamentals, to get that content out there and then to start like copy editing it, tweaking it. And as you see how that content performs, you can then start to pay more attention to it. Because here's the key. Like AI does mediocre work. Like my perspective of AI is, depending on the person I talk to, I either say it is like it's a personal assistant or it's a teaching assistant, is how I view AI. Like, and I'm talking,
Mm,
when I speak in this moment, I'm talking about generative AI, like ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, being able to say like, "Hey, can you write me some content?"
yeah.
Um, it's like, and you get out of it what you put into it, just
Mm,
like with a personal assistant or a teaching assistant or like a
yeah.
junior person. It's like you have to give them very explicit instructions in order to get anything of quality out of it. And that that amount of time varies. Like it's entirely possible by the time you're done writing very good instructions that you could have just done it yourself instead of providing the instructions.
Mm,
And I mean, that's one of the big things is you have to, when you use AI, you have to think deeper about what you're trying to get out of it and what you're not trying to get out of it. Because it really is like a machine where you like put your quarter in and you have no idea what you're going to get out of it. It's like some kind of like gumball machine from heaven or hell, depending on what comes out the other side. And
mm,
so like, yeah, it's tough. And a lot of the people who have to manage content and deal with content is not, it's not the thing that they're hired to do. It's not the thing that they really like care about. Like Broderick, you were talking about creating content. Like you are a master of podcasting and like writing content for your website. Like, that's part of what you need to do for your job, for your business, but it's not necessarily like you don't wake up in the middle of the night going, "Oh, I've got an idea for an article." I'm making assumptions that you're not a writer at heart, but like a lot of people who have to manage content for websites, it's like I'm doing like 7 different things,
mm-hmm.
and now I have to write write something for the website to explain something. I'm just going to have AI write it and be done
Yeah.
with it. And so the like for me, I want to help those people who are balancing a lot of projects, balancing a lot of tasks that include content, to help them with their content strategy and do a better job by like maximizing the use of their tools.
Mm, yeah.
You know,
I
yeah,
hear you. I feel like when we take that approach though, and we say like, and it's exactly it. Like for me, I haven't written an article in forever for exactly that reason. But I don't know, and maybe there is a lot of merit in this. There's two things. One, I'm really interested to see what happens with copyright law as time goes on, because
Hmm.
there was something released with OpenAI that said anything that they put out is technically theirs. And so I don't know how fair use is going to play out with that as time goes on. So that's its own thing. I don't know. I know I've been following it like just a little bit here and there, and maybe great, you free commercial use for forever. I don't know, but I know there was something that came out where they said no, this is technically our content. So that is one thing I'll be paying attention to. But the
Hmm.
other side, it's the reason I haven't posted in for forever, is I really do believe more often than not that less is more. And I know many content creators that say, I need to wake up every day and make a TikTok. I need to wake up every day and put out this type of post that's going to just exist. That's the whole point, because the idea is I'm going to put so much into this thing that may or may not gain any traction. And my approach is more like I really like to say maybe we do a little bit of that, but let's take the first 3 months to just try things.
Hmm.
Let's figure out what works. And we did that with this podcast even. If we have like 3 months worth of content, then we're like, well, that wasn't very good. And we got better and we try and we refined it. And
Yep.
now we feel like, well, it's still not very good, but this is the best it's ever going to get because we've learned that in the process. No, I think it's fine. But the reality is this: I don't think most people want to refine the process and wait to put something out, because I want, when I make content with anyone, I want it to be good enough that I believe this will be reshared by someone, and someone out there will appreciate it and find it valuable. And if I'm not making content with the end user in mind, especially with them engaging with it, reading through or listening through or watching through the whole thing and that whole resharing piece, well, then why am I doing it? And if the idea is, well, I've just got to stay consistent because we don't know if this will be the one that's going to strike gold. So
Hmm.
we just have to keep making it because, and it's interesting. Like, again, I don't know how much light we want to share on all the different content creators that are out there, but we change how we make content based on whatever is circulating, whatever's relevant at the time. Without going into detail, there was did you see the instance of the Hawk Tuah thing that blew up
Yes.
overnight?
Yes.
Okay. So I just want to say, without going into too much detail of that episode, I went out and did street interviews that next week. And I'm just going to say all the responses I got from people on 6th Street in Austin, Texas were vastly different than anything I've ever gotten before, because everyone's thinking, I need to say something insane to go
Uh-huh.
viral. And now it was a financial planning podcast. So the question I asked people was, what's the craziest thing you've done for a buck? And people went crazy. And so if we all see people right now using AI and generative AI, the reality is we're saying, oh, well, they're doing 50 blogs a day with this. I've got to be doing 50 blogs a day. But we're not really stopping to ask why. Why are we doing this? Why are we saying this? Do we understand that once it's out there, it's out there?
Well, let's take a step and let's talk about like it's not necessarily the amount. I mean, obviously AI can help you generate like thousands of articles very quickly. But let's talk about how a person can use AI to like make their voice stronger, more unique.
Yeah.
Like for instance, one of one of the strategies that I use for whenever I write like articles
Hmm.
or like submissions or things like that, what I will do is I will open up a document. I will hit the keyboard command to switch on dictation, and I will begin to basically rant at my computer on a topic. I'd be like, I love blah, blah, blah. And I think that this is wrong. And this is the reason why. And I think that this is the approach that should be taken. And I think that, and I just basically just kind of like word vomit as if I was just kind of talking to myself or talking to someone else and just trying to like get out everything that's inside of my head on a topic. Like I'm not trying to structure it. I'm not trying to do anything. I'm just trying to get like all of my thoughts down on paper.
Mm.
Okay. Now, if you'd rather type that out, if that's the kind of person you are, then go ahead and do that. I prefer to go on rants with my own computer. So, So anyway, so I do that, and then what I do is I feed that into I use ChatGPT. I feed that into ChatGPT, and I'm like, hey, let's start like I start querying that text. I'm like, listen, what are the key points from this text? And it'll go like, here are the 5 key points that are in the text. Because maybe I kept revisiting a certain topic, and it will shine that light back at me and say, like, listen, you mentioned 5 times that this was the approach that should be taken. And it's like, okay, maybe I should focus on that. And so then I start to like pull out those ideas. Then I'm like, okay, like, give me, using this corpus of information, give me, a list of potential like blog topics that could be pulled out of this. And it's like, oh, using those like key points that were in there, then it's like you could probably get like 4 to 6 articles out of it. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, then like for each article I'll be like, okay, for this article please like write in, like give me an outline and use quotes from the original text, and then it will give me like a bulleted list of an outline using quotes from my original text,
Mm.
so that I can see. And what this does is this helps me as a person understand the information that I've given into it. Like, because I'm not
Yeah.
asking ChatGPT to do anything for me other than to like look at it through a different lens. And that allows me to kind of massage my thoughts and maybe see things in a way that I didn't see. Like, for instance, you can also use it to challenge your thinking. Like, everybody's really big and like, I've got the right idea. But very few people ask themselves like, well, what kind of pushback could be like envisioned here? And so like, I'll ask ChatGPT like, hey, this, these topics, like what are, if I was a person who didn't believe that AI should be part of content strategy, what points would they bring up? How would they counter that? And it brings up
Mm.
counterpoints that gets me as a person thinking. And then I start to like, I will address those concerns or like adapt to that. So basically like it's using that generative AI as a tool to be able to pull in all of these different things, and to massage my thinking and to get ideas from what I've started with. And so like that is one of my favorite ways to do things, like to write articles.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, I mean, I think that's great food for thought. And I, as I said earlier, like the research piece is really important to me, knowing that if we're doing some sort of digging to put together content, we're having to learn something for ourselves, whether it's however you're doing your research and then coming together. And I think you mentioned it earlier, using it as this assistant to say, okay, I know all this stuff. I have all these things. Here's the topic I want to go down, and here's all of these subpoints. Put together an email series. For
Mm-hmm.
me, that's very, very, very different than just saying, I have no idea what to say something, right? And so leveraging AI to come up with a content calendar, there's a lot of ways to do it to still be authentic
Mm-hmm.
and not, I mean, I tell you, and I think the reason you could tell earlier I was a little triggered, a little annoyed is because it can't go on YouTube now where it's like I literally see YouTube content that has AI text to speech, AI video,
Yeah.
AI everything, and I'm like, this whole thing is just fake. And it's
Yeah.
and don't be that. Be you. That's what makes the content special is you. So think through it. Don't, for those first steps especially, but especially once you're farther down the road, like enhancing processes, making it easier for you to do what you already were going to do, that's totally different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want to talk about a specific example, but I can't give any names. So I had a project where there were like 35,000 different pages on this website. Okay. And I did a crawl of the site to get all of the data about the site. And one of the things that I always pay attention to is metadata. Okay, like page titles, page descriptions, what open graph image are they using? Because I feel like in our age of like sharing, you want to make sure that every time your link is posted, that it looks the best that it can. Um, Especially because like this client was a higher education client, and I'm like, listen, you want the students to know that you like can you understand the environments they're in. Anyway, so what I did was I put in a bunch of conditional formatting. I made a chart showing that of the 35,000 nodes, there were only 10,000 of them had meta descriptions, and the ones that had meta descriptions were too long, meaning that they were getting cut off in search results. It meant like in the middle, you're in the middle of a statement and you get the ellipses and it's too long. And it's like, writing good meta descriptions is something that people only pay attention to like their top like maybe 20 or 50 pages. Like if the page is important, you make sure that to craft that. But if it's like, I don't know, run of the mill content, like when you have 35,000 pages, no one's going to care. Well, I realized that this was a perfect use for generative AI. In the spreadsheet that I had, I've got a plugin for Google Sheets that lets me run ChatGPT in it. And I basically created a column right next to the meta description. And I told it, rewrite as a maximum of 120 characters. And I just basically dragged that function through a bunch of cells, and all of the meta descriptions were so much better. Like they were actually formatted in a way that was going to work better for search engines. It was more to the point about what the page was about. And as a result, once that gets implemented, it is going to help the page rankings for those pages because it has good metadata. And that is something that can be like dynamically imported. I'm not an engineer, but like I've got the URL, I've got the field. Like I'm pretty sure that like somebody can write a script to import that really easily, and you get an improvement. And I tell you what, updating all of those meta descriptions, it took less than an hour, and that included like trying to figure out how to use the ChatGPT like spreadsheet function. Yeah, I know. It's no one gets excited over spreadsheets, but like let's be honest, the outcome there is pretty great. Being able to update like thousands of nodes like that is pretty sweet.
I like the private chat saying, I can't hear you. Now,
Yeah,
now I can. I was on
yeah.
mute that whole time. I must have unintentionally pressed the mute button. And I like that you're so polite, though. You're like, I'm not going to call him out, but now I'm calling myself out. And now we're here. I was saying, I was actually defending you that entire time. I was like, yeah, I actually really can appreciate a really great spreadsheet. And I think a lot of folks in the audience can too. I mean, that's one of the things I really got out of getting even a master's degree. Out of any of the things, people are like, "What'd you learn? What'd you get?" I'm like, Microsoft Excel. And yeah, I really can appreciate. I mean, it's insane how powerful of a tool it is. So if people are listening to this today and you don't know anything about it and it's super intimidating, it doesn't have to be. That's the really nice thing about it. It can like
Mhm.
it can do the most basic things and you can kind of grow with it, which is it's such an awesome tool. I cannot stress enough. So yeah, I haven't I mean all of my podcast content calendars and things like use some form of Microsoft Excel. And yeah, I love it. I love it. It's dynamic and I love teaching people how to use Excel because you can tell I nerd out over things with it. So if you're in, what I want to know, audience, before we wrap this whole thing up, what is the craziest Microsoft Excel formula you've ever put together? Send it to us. Come back next week. Drop the formula in. We want to see how long it is. We want to see how many pages it impacted. Tell us about it. Randy, that means next week. So we got to talk about something with Microsoft Excel. I don't know what it is, but I'm
What are
really
we talking
hyped.
about? Let's make next week's topic spreadsheets, and we can just talk about
Yes.
spreadsheets.
I am so excited about that. I went, but compared to AI, that we talked about this week, which is fine. Obviously, apologies all. I was got a little upset today, but next week, spreadsheets. It's gonna be a lot of fun. You know what to do. We're gonna have links to all the places you should go. But that's this week's episode of Design Good Company. For the folks who joined us, thanks for listening in. and yeah, being a part of the conversation. If you have any questions, you want to be here, well, be here next week, next Friday at what is it? 10:30? Yeah, 10:30 Central Time, 11:30 Eastern, 8:30 Pacific, 9:30 Mountain. Now I've said it all the times. None of you have an excuse not to be there. Be there next week. Join up with us, Randy, or whoever you are now that you have a different face. It's been good
Yes.
talking to you this week.
Hey, beard free. What can I say?
Beard free since
Yes.
2024.
3? No.
Not you know.
Yeah. All right.
Had to
Well,
wait.
anyway, let's just get out
Adios.
of here before it gets worse.
It's not getting better. Bye.